Right now. Canada's 30 under 30 Sustainability Star 2019, founder of Energyhub org, and a master's student of sustainability program at University of Toronto. Rylan Urban is barely getting started. Rylan, congratulations for joining our platform as our next green star.
Well, thank you so much for having me today.
The mission of our Green Day Out with the Star platform is to celebrate and share the life stories of real and amazing grassroots professionals working to shape innovative ideas to change the world. So let us share your story today, Rylan. My favorite question always is, who is Rylan? Rome was not built in a day. So tell me about your life story right from your childhood days.
Life story, okay. Well, I won't make this too long, but I think there's maybe, when I look back at like the aspects of my personality or the experiences that I had that have sort of stuck with me and defined
Mm-hmm.
the path that I've taken.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think from a young age, I really enjoyed, going outdoors, doing activities, and
Mm-hmm.
my parents were always supportive and the ones taking me to do that. So I
Mm-hmm.
think, having like a natural love of the environment and nature and the world and like, that desire to explore has been
Mm-hmm.
something that's always driven me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and from a young age, I think I always remember kind of having like an entrepreneurial spirit as well,
Right.
right? So, when we go on like family camping trips,
Mm-hmm.
I would have like a notepad and pen, and I would be like designing like a fishing store that I wanted to start, or
Oh, wow.
like a board game that I was designing,
Uh-huh.
like a super complex Monopoly game or something like that. But
Uh-huh.
um, I feel like I've always like had like ideas, and I've really I'm like the kind of person who like gets a like grabs onto something and sort of
Mm-hmm.
just like runs with it.
Mm-hmm.
So going through, high school, it was, I never really did anything. It was more so just like ideas that I had and sort of like passions and further down the along the line, like
Mm-hmm.
towards university and sometime I spent like outside of school.
Mm-hmm.
um, like taking action on those ideas and making them come alive is sort of is sort of the way that I've really carved a path, in the past 5 to 10 years.
Oh, great. And the most important thing is that you had the guts to work on your ideas. So
hmm
that's the more important thing to do.
Yeah, not always. I mean, it's really hard to hit the publish button for the first time. I think,
Yes. Uh-huh.
when my ideas started, like the first iteration of, let's say,
Mm-hmm.
any entrepreneurial idea that I had was
Mm-hmm.
creating like a travel blog.
Okay.
So I did some travel and I wanted to create a blog,
Mm.
but I had this site for probably like 6 months and I never published a thing. You know, all that was there was like a coming soon page.
Right.
But what I realized was that I really liked working on the back end of it. Like
Mhm.
I liked thinking about, okay,
Mhm.
how are people going to find my site? Like, how do
Mhm.
I get this to show up on
Right.
Google? How do I get them to sign up for my email form? And
Mhm.
that's when I sort of realized that I like the marketing and like the communications piece.
Yes.
Um,
But
and yeah,
like before you go into how you did come to Energy Hub, I want to really want talk to you about you are now working at the graduate degree from University of Toronto. So how did you hear about this program and how did you apply for it and get admitted for it?
yeah. So I guess it would be 2 years ago now. I would have just finished my application. Yeah, 2 years ago to the day, basically. Um, so I was finishing my undergraduate degree in toxicology at the University of Saskatchewan,
Okay.
and I really didn't know what I wanted to do when I finished university, I
Mm-hmm.
thought maybe I could go, work for like a marketing agency,
Mm-hmm.
work some sort of environmental job.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I don't know, it was just like within the span of a week, I sort of realized that doing a master's degree was something that I really wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my professors sort of like pushed me to do the master's degree. She was
Mm-hmm.
like, Rylan, you have to do a master's degree.
Okay.
Um, so I was like, so then from that point, I was like, okay, well, I wonder what program that I should
Mm-hmm.
do. And I just searched online for
Mm-hmm.
programs related to sustainability.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I looked at like three or four. This was the only program that I really wanted to do. It was the only program that I applied for.
Okay.
So
And
yeah,
that says a lot about this program, right?
so it was either this program or nothing. So
Oh, wow.
I applied, I got in, and yeah, that's it.
Yeah, tell me like three top things that you love about this program.
Um, I think the best part of the program is, the people
Hmm.
that we work with on a daily basis, like the classmates.
Right.
So there's 36, 37 people,
Hmm.
students in the program.
Hmm.
Nobody has a, an identical degree from an identical university. So everyone
Right.
has like a different background.
Hmm.
So when we work on, group projects or whatever assignment we're working on, you get a really good opportunity to learn from the people that you're working with.
Exactly. And that's what is like very true of a sustainability program. People come from different fields and come together to
Yeah,
create sustainability, right?
yeah, yeah. That's like I think that's one of
Hmm.
the unique aspects,
Hmm.
or one thing that the program like really
Hmm.
does right is
Hmm.
ensuring that diverse perspectives are brought into the classroom,
Right.
which is very useful for applying that knowledge and working with it
Hmm.
afterwards.
Hmm. But how has this program from University of Toronto equipped you for your current role as founder of Energyhub.org?
Um, so again, I think it's like that diversity in the content that we learn that's been
Mm-hmm.
especially helpful. Um, so whenever you know I was to approach like a sustainability
Mm-hmm.
issue, it would always have been primarily from like an environmental perspective
Mm-hmm.
because that's what my undergrad training is in.
Right.
But when you take a master's degree in
Mm-hmm.
or in like a field of management, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
um, you learn how to ask questions related to, the economics of what's going on, related to the people or the social side of who's impacted and how.
Right.
So broadening that scope of, the conversations that I could have was really, um, I think, instrumental in making sure that Energy Hub is as diverse and applicable as it needs to be.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you said that you started out as like a marketing company, right?
Yeah,
And then graduated to Energy Hub.
yeah,
How was that journey?
yeah. So I guess, you know, jumping right from the travel blog, I realized I like the marketing side of things.
Mm-hmm.
And I also realized that I had a passion for, you know, the environment. So I
Mm-hmm.
was like, well, how can I combine the two? And that's when I started doing marketing for residential solar installation companies.
Okay.
So I basically applied the skills that I learned to create like a website,
Mm-hmm.
show up on Google searches, and then basically, start contacting business owners who had
Mm-hmm.
installation companies and basically just saying like, hey, can I create your website? Can I run your advertisements on Google, Facebook?
Mm-hmm.
Just like the really like easy stuff that, any millennial can do because they know how to
Right.
it's easy to figure out. And that's kind of how it started. And
Mm-hmm.
then, at some point I was like, well, basically it makes more sense for me to build a platform of my
Mm-hmm.
own,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to growing everybody else's platform. And
Mm-hmm.
one of the other things that I saw was that there wasn't a lot of high quality information.
Mm-hmm.
related to solar installation, related to sustainable energy in general. And the
Mm.
information's really like complicated and hard to find. It's on like utility websites, government websites, which aren't always easy to read. So, basically the goal was to sort of take all that information, put
Right.
it together in a really easy, digestible form, and then,
Mm.
use that as a platform for engaging um, property owners, other
Mm.
companies that I now work with, etc.
Mm. No, I think the sustainability management program really um, put you towards that path, right?
Hmm.
From one aspect to the entire thing, seeing it holistically, as you can say, right?
Yeah, yeah. And it's really interesting actually because I remember
Mhm.
being in the classroom and like drawing the Energyhub logo on a paper plate.
Oh, wow.
So I had like a round like paper plate and
Uh-huh.
I was like drawing like the squiggles that you see that are now like part of
Right.
my logo.
Yes.
Um, and so yeah, it's really interesting, I guess, to see how that's transformed from, just over that short period of time.
No, and the future students should really get inspired from this journey,
Hmm.
for this program in particular. But I know that you love to solve big problems. Um, energy, specifically alternative energy,
Hmm.
um, is huge, but still not there.
Right,
How do you think you can market alternative energy to become the mainstream energy?
right. So basically, the approach
Mm-hmm.
that I take with Energyhub
Mm-hmm.
is, the premise is that the technology is already there, the technology is already developed and is getting
Mm-hmm.
better every day,
Right.
but most people just don't realize that,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, my intention is to create, high quality, actionable information
Mm-hmm.
such that, when someone does have that thought one day and they
Mm-hmm.
say, "Oh, I wonder if this is possible for me,"
Mm-hmm.
the the information that I provide makes it really easy for them to go from, "Does this work for me?" to, let's do this, right?
Right.
So basically answering, the questions that are barriers for most people,
Mm-hmm.
providing like a really clean process that they can go through, I think
Mm-hmm.
is the intention behind a lot of the content that we create. So
Okay.
increasing, the adoption of sustainable energy
Right.
technologies by communicating it um, in a
Mhm.
simplified, like effective way.
You also work as a consultant, right? So,
Mhm.
what are the questions that you get as a consultant?
So again, I think this is an interesting thing is that, on the consulting side, where we
Mm-hmm.
work very, high up on the value chain, with
Mm-hmm.
like utilities, with governments, with regulators,
Mm-hmm.
you know, these parties already understand that the technologies are there or that they're coming,
Right.
and they're contracting us to come up with, business models for them
Mm-hmm.
or strategies on how they can, navigate that market.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's the interesting thing I think for me is that when you look high up, these organizations understand that the transition is happening, but
Mm-hmm.
when you look further down at like the everyday person level, they don't understand, right?
Right.
So that's where Energy Hub kind of like fills that gap, is
Mm-hmm.
like basically telling an everyday person that, hey, this technology is actually already financially feasible.
Mm-hmm.
Here's how you can, take advantage of that.
No, and I would really love to have you as a consultant on and mentor on Day Out with a Star platform. So people all over the world can gain from your experience. That is really amazing thing that you are trying to do. But tell me, is it possible to move towards a low carbon economy at the same time, uh, dramatically increase the resource productivity?
Right. Yeah, I think, it's a really difficult question to answer in terms of, recognizing that there's limits to the resources that we have available on the
Right.
planet.
Hmm.
Um, and as we transition to a low carbon economy, it often requires large amounts of resources and kinds of resources that we haven't been using before.
Hmm.
For example, like lithium or rare earth metals that are used in
Right.
battery or electronics technology.
Hmm.
So there's always trade-offs that have to be made when transitioning from one state to another. And the trade-off is that there's environmental damage or costs
Right.
that need to be taken or that are taken. But I think any step that we can take to
Hmm.
mitigate that damage is obviously an important
Hmm.
thing to recognize as well.
Like, what did it take to start energyhub.org? Have you gotten any investment right now, or is still seeking any investment? How is it going for you?
Yeah, so Energy Hub started as a side project.
Hmm.
Um, and the first versions of it, as I mentioned, like the travel blog and the marketing website, was all things that I did in my free time when I was going through my undergraduate degree.
Right.
And the newest version, which is now Energy Hub, is something I've done in my free time, going
Hmm.
through the master's degree,
Hmm.
or even, as I was working as a consultant last summer. So in terms of like investment, it's not something that I've really sought to this point,
Hmm.
just because I haven't, been r- ready to go into it full time because I still felt that there's a lot of value in spending my full time either
Hmm.
taking the master's degree or doing the consulting job, which
Hmm.
helps to broaden the scope of knowledge that I have um,
Hmm.
of the energy industry and sustainability as a whole.
But like, how do you seed entrepreneurial spirit among new crop of environmental students as an impact strategy? Because people think of environmental professionals as like campaigners, never like like an entrepreneur, right?
Right. Yeah, I think it's just like an unfortunate misconception that
Right.
environmentalists are activists, which isn't
Uh-huh.
always true. Um, environmentalists are also people who work
Hmm.
at banks with finance companies with investment funds, and a
Right.
lot of our students do that.
Exactly.
We had our students, last summer interned at Scotiabank, TD Bank,
Hmm.
right? At Navigant, we had a consultant who just came
Hmm.
from, I think, CIBC.
Hmm.
So, there's a lot of people in a
Hmm.
diverse industries that
Right.
care about, sustainability and the environment, and they don't have to be separated from each other.
No, it's particularly true because I myself interviewed last year some of your students who were like investment bankers,
Right, right.
entrepreneurs again, and a lot of opportunity in becoming an entrepreneur because it's a wide open field right now,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly. Yeah. A lot of opportunity, like there's a lot of like growth that's going to
Mhm,
happen in the
mhm,
field of
mhm,
sustainability in terms of environmental finance
mhm,
and research and development and different opportunities. So it's a great time to, transition to that field or that way of thinking if you haven't already.
right. And but like, is it more difficult to champion sustainability rather than work in like just safe areas like finance and IT sector?
So I guess like, the word safe might be misleading because things
Mhm,
always change,
mhm.
and
Right.
even the finance sector and the IT sector need a context for which the work is being done,
Exactly.
right? So, you can have a very narrow focus on finance or IT
Mhm,
and be disconnected from the work that you do, but that's not necessarily the best
mhm,
career development strategy. Often you want to be, involved or knowledgeable about the sectors or, the content, whatever
mhm,
industry that you're working in, right? So I think, having
mhm,
a knowledge of, the environment and climate change and the realities of the way that the world is going would indirectly actually help you, even as a finance or IT
Right,
professional.
and these are the thrust areas, right? Because like now the finance companies and investment bankers have their sustainability plan ready, right? They
Exactly.
want to invest in the sustainability sector,
Yeah.
and even IT sector. They are not developing software, and they are developing programs which directly impact the environment, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And you only have to look at like as far as like Google and Microsoft to look for like very good
Yeah,
examples of that, right?
right.
Like Microsoft just recently announced that, not only do they want to get to, net zero
Hmm.
or like reduce like basically produce like no net emissions as a company, but they want
Hmm.
to get to net negative and
Hmm.
offset all of the emissions that they've ever created as a company,
Right.
their entire history. Um, so yeah, it's just something that I think, it's conversations that the world is starting to have more frequently.
Hmm. No, it was so nice talking to you, Rylan. But tell me, uh, how has this journey seeding your knowledge about a sustainable world uh, has impacted you as a person?
Right. Um, I mean, there's definitely behavior change that comes with
Hmm.
knowledge and experience. And I think, a lot of my educational training and the experiences that I've had through the entrepreneurial journey,
Hmm.
or personal journey has changed, a lot of my own behaviors in terms of, the purchasing decisions that I make, the things that I choose to do
Hmm.
in my free time, the people and that I hang out with, the activities that I do,
Hmm.
I think has all, has all changed as a result of the journey that I've taken.
No, and like you're fairly young at this time, and it is not the right time to have a legacy. But tell me, what do you think you want to leave as a footprint in the sands of time?
Hmm. Footprints.
As an environmentalist, you may not want to leave your footprint, but
Yeah. 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 Um, I think, the impact that I want to have is
Mhm,
not necessarily, I guess I've never really thought about it like super long term in terms of like
mhm,
a legacy, but more in
mhm,
the sense that, what I do directly impacts the people and
mhm,
the planet around me, which I
mhm,
interact with all the time.
mhm,
So, maybe not thinking in terms of creating a legacy, but in terms of
mhm.
creating maybe like a spark of inspiration
Right.
or making a small change
Mhm,
to, the world that I interact with on a daily basis is something that I think might be important for me in terms
mhm.
of, guiding people towards, more sustainable living or actions or along those lines.
No, that's a really good question, and I hope that your energy hub creates that impact for the future generation, and you go on to do better things in life that again creates an impact.
Mhm.
Uh, Rylan, thank you so much for joining our show, and all the fans of Rylan, connect with him on our dayoutwithastar.com. We'll have him as a consultant there, and you can always connect with him with questions on career, on sustainability, on seeding entrepreneurial spirit. Rylan, thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Chandra.